All right, I think we will get started. Thank you so much for joining and welcome to the demo of the new features on IATI's Country Development Finance Data Tool. So obviously today we'll be demoing some of the new features that have been added to the Country Development Finance Data Tool. I am Sarah McDuff and I work for UNDP as part of the IATI Secretariat, and I lead on partner country support and data use. And I think that Mark Bruff has been able to join us as well, and I would just like to acknowledge that he's the consultant that has supported the technical implementation of this work. He's done a fantastic job, so none of this work would have been possible without his support, so just to thank him for that. So let's dive in. So for today's agenda, we will cover some of the context and history of what we call it CDFD for short, before jumping into an overview of the new features and a demo, including exploring some example queries. But of course, there'll be plenty of time at the end for any of your questions on like the tool itself or any data use questions that you might want to explore. We're happy to dive into those specific questions. So to start with, I think it's always helpful to kind of start with the broader context of what IATI as an initiative is trying to achieve, and how this work and this tool and these new features fit within this broader context. So of course, we are in the middle of a 5-year strategic plan that goes from 2020 to 2025. And at the beginning of its implementation, we mapped out at a high level how we will enable increased data use, which is of course a core objective of the strategic plan. So as you can see from this diagram, which some of you may have seen before, in order to do this, we needed to first understand what the barriers were to data use. And then we needed to do work to strengthen the standard, improve the quality of the data, ensure that we had effective tools that were freely available for all users to access and use IATI data, and also to strengthen data literacy and capacity for use. But obviously this work not only involves the Secretariat, it also involves the broader community and requires the community's engagement in order to achieve these objectives, with the overall goal of overcoming data use barriers and increasing the systematic use of IATI data by development and humanitarian actors. So how does this work fit in this sort of overall plan? It supports the improvement of both access to IATI data, to ensure that IATI data is accessible and presented and made available in the ways in which data users need this information. And these new features that we're going to talk about today also support data users to more easily analyze IATI data. So we kind of see the pathway to data use is like you need to be able to access the information, you need to be able to understand it, you need to be able to analyze it, and then perhaps you will use this information. So, you know, both are critical enablers to data use. So the work on the Country Development Finance Data Tool contributes to both access and analysis, and we hope that and have seen since its launch that it is enabling increased use of IATI data. So just to give a bit of history, so like I think as many people who are familiar with the tool are aware, this tool was initially developed to meet the needs of partner country governments for a standard set of essential data that can be easily accessed and analyzed. Prior to the availability of the spreadsheets from this tool, it was a manual process by the Secretariat to process the data to then provide, you know, sort of one-to-one support to give the spreadsheets of processed data to governments who needed to use this. And the goal from the very beginning was to learn from the implementation. It was intended as an interim tool at the beginning, and to learn from its development and use to inform work across the Secretariat, including the development of an improved data portal, which is still part of the plan, but has been delayed, and also IATI's data quality work. So the initial version of the tool launched in March of 2021, and the initial offering was just the Excel formatted data set. So offering a subset of IATI data that was of projections and spending and other pieces of information that was presented by country or region. And it was intended to enable easy analysis in a pivot table. In July of 2021, we launched guidance and analysis dashboards. So this is guidance on how to understand the data, how to analyze the data, and the analysis dashboards allowed you to paste the data into an Excel workbook so you could easily see some analysis and graphs and charts and things to kind of better understand what you could do with the data. And then in August of 2022, we launched some how-to videos, largely focused on understanding and analyzing the data. So since its launch, we have done a lot of engagement to support data users in using this tool, but often also in combination with IATI's other data access tools. But we've conducted dozens of one-to-one trainings and support calls with data users. And we conducted training during 3 workshops in Kigali, Abuja, and Bangkok last year, where we trained 58 government representatives from 49 countries, 75 civil society representatives, and 25 development partner representatives on how to use this tool. And I've just put in an engagement stat from the tool itself, which shows that there have been 5,000 users from 158 countries. So in terms of its use, so it's one thing to train people, it's another thing for people to then leave that training and then actually make use of the information. But we're seeing increasing use of the information that's available from this tool. I've put a couple of examples here. Of course, governments are using the data to prepare development cooperation reports, to do analysis that's informing their national budgets, to monitor spending, and to enable dialogue. There are a lot of researchers that are using the tool and for analysis. And of course, there are civil society organizations and development partners, including UN agencies, using it to conduct external development finance landscape analysis, which is something that is quite easy to do with this tool and is a very common need of data users. So through all of these trainings and engagement and use of the tool, what have we learned? So obviously the goal of implementing this tool was to learn, right? So what have we learned? We have learned that data users definitely need a processed subset of IATI data to enable them to more easily understand, analyze, and use the data. And we have heard again and again that the data available in CDFD largely meets the needs of data users from a range of stakeholder groups, not just from governments. We've also learned that guidance is essential to enabling data users to understand the tool and the data. So providing comprehensive guidance with a lot of information, along with the how-to videos, is very helpful for data users. Even though we've simplified, the access to IATI data can still be complicated. And so the guidance has been essential for data users. Another thing we've learned is that the availability of the tool in French, Spanish, and Portuguese has really increased access to IATI data to non-English speakers. So this is something that has been asked for by the community for a very long time. And particularly in the West and Central Africa workshop in Abuja, we had a lot of French-speaking participants who very much appreciated the availability of this information and the tool, et cetera, in French. We have also found that having this processed subset of data enables easier identification of data quality issues. So of course, we have a variety of tools that sort of assess data quality, like the IATI validator, but sometimes those issues that are maybe not checked by the validator, like looking at data gaps or things like that, for non-mandatory fields and things like that, it's a lot easier to see when you have a set of processed data. So we found that it's useful, but of course there's still work to do. And so data users have also along the way shared what they still needed. So of course, initially we had spreadsheets, right? So you have to be able to analyze those in a pivot table. We have the analysis dashboard, but you need to be able to manipulate those visualizations. So users wanted an easier way to visualize the data so they could understand the information. And they also wanted to be able to customize those visualizations. People also ask for customized spreadsheets. While governments typically download the data file for their country, Other data users often need data for multiple countries, or like if you're doing analysis on a particular sector, you're going to need to pull a lot of different files to do that analysis. So it was possible, but not necessarily that simple. So I think for a lot of data users, these customized spreadsheets were an ask. And also folks wanted to be able to see the analysis easily at the activity level. So in the spreadsheets, it's designed to be able to enable analysis in a pivot table, but each row in the spreadsheet is not an individual activity. And so people wanted to be able to see that. And that was a lot of feedback we received. Of course, additional data fields are always of interest. And a couple of these we've been able to address with the changes. We're still working on the location data, but we have added activity descriptions, which less of an interest from government data users, but certainly an interest from a lot of other data user groups. And then groups of publishers. One of the key challenges data users face in using IATI data is to know which, when an organization publishes under multiple publishers, it can be difficult to know, okay, so like which are all the publishers I need to look at to see like US government data, for example. And so often when I support data users, I tell them this manually, like, to explain like which organizations, which publishers you should group together to get, like for a particular bilateral or for the European Commission, for example. But it's way easier for data users to be able to see this themselves. And so this is some functionality we've introduced here. All right, so here's where we actually discussed the new features. So after all of this learning, what exactly did we implement? What are these new features? And of course, I'm going to demo them, but just to give you a quick overview. We have now data dashboards. So there are some summary dashboards. There are also dashboards by country or region, reporting organization, and sector. And you can visualize the data in different formats, in maps and charts and tables. You can customize the view with a range of filters, and you can download the underlying data for each visualization, which I think is extremely important, so that you can actually make use of this information outside of the visualization on the page. The second major thing that we have implemented is the custom data download. So this is to meet the need for customized spreadsheets. So I'll show you how this works, but basically you can view and download custom spreadsheets of the data. You can select the columns you want to include, and you can also apply a similar range of filters to arrive at your customized spreadsheet. A couple of other functionalities that I think it's good to highlight. There's an interactive and customizable map, which I think is really great to have, so you can visually see like where money is going. There are links to activity pages on dPortal. So this is also extremely important because of course CDFD provides access to a subset of IATI data, but often users want to explore an activity in detail. And our best tool for doing that currently is in dPortal. So if you're looking at a particular activity, the link is there to go to dPortal to explore the activity in more detail. As I said, the reporting organization groups are now available. There are persistent URLs, so you can easily copy and paste the view that you're looking at or your customized data download and share it with a colleague. So I think that's important functionality to enable you to share what you're looking at with others. Descriptions are now available, as I said, and again, all of this is available in French, Spanish, and Portuguese. So now we will do a demo of the new features. All right, so the one thing I didn't mention in terms of the improvements is we've changed the appearance of the homepage a little bit. So if you've been here before, you might notice that. We've made it more in line with other IATI tools. And also hopefully made it pretty easy to access the different features. But, I think with all of this, we want your feedback. So, please do reach out if you have any feedback that you would like to share on any of these improvements. So this is the homepage. So now on the homepage, you can see that this link takes you to explore the summary data dashboards. Underneath here, you can see these are the dashboards by recipient country or region, by reporting organization, or by sector category. And the custom data download is here. And the original functionality remains as well. So this is the, so if you click on Angola, these are the original files. And of course, this is the underlying data that you can see in the visualizations and download from the custom data download as well. So you can still access that on the homepage. We've shifted the guidance and analysis dashboards to another page, but you can easily access them here from the homepage as well. So let's first dive into the summary dashboards. So these are the summary dashboards. So basically, these summary dashboards are pulling all of the data and all of the files for CDFT. Just to give you an overview of what you're looking at here. So this, you can see at the very top, we've got currency, so you can switch between USD and Euro. We've got resource flows, so you can look at budgets and spending. Obviously, spending is a combination of disbursements and expenditures, which is standard in the IATI tools. You have the calendar year here, and you also have the calendar year and quarter. So you can look at a calendar year, or you can look at just one quarter, or you can look at maybe 4 quarters that are part of a fiscal year from July to June, for example. And I'll show you the filters in just a second, but I want to show you these visualizations. So this basically shows you the money that was projected to be spent in 2022 by country. You can toggle then to spending, and then you have the money that was actually spent in 2022 by country. If you scroll over the country, like Egypt, here we have the amount on here. You can also, of course, look at this data in a graph, in a table, and you can download the Excel file with the summary data. So it will give you a list of all the countries and the budgets, or all the countries and the spending. To go down one more, so here we have this is budgets and spending by reporting organization. So as you might expect, the World Bank is here with the most budgets and spending. Obviously, the USAID doesn't publish budgets, which is why that is not there. But you can kind of get a sense of the top 10. You can increase this to 50 if you want. So, I mean, there's a lot of customizations that you can do here. This is sector category. So you can see, it looks like the most money was spent in emergency response. And you have sort of a summary by calendar year here of budgets and spending. So this also shows you sort of the forward-looking budgets, which is a key set of information that is typically needed by governments. So just to quickly show you how you can customize these visualizations, if we go to the more filters, I just want to go through what is here. So here you have reporting organizations. So if you wanted to look at a particular organization, you could filter that here. You could look at only multilaterals, for example. This is reporting organization type. Aid type, this is the modality in which the resources are delivered. You have finance type, so this is whether it's a grant or a loan. You have flow type, so whether this is ODA, other official flows, etc. You could filter by a specific country if you wanted to. Of course, you can also look at a particular country in its own dashboard, which I'll show you in a minute. You have sector category, so you could look at all health sector spending. And these are the more disaggregated sectors. And then you could also filter this by humanitarian or development. So let me just show you a couple of examples. So let's say you wanted to look at only multilaterals. So you'd click the multilaterals, and then I'm just going to reduce the results because I realize it's probably small on your screen. But then you can see that these are all multilaterals here, right? So this is all the money that was projected to be spent by multilaterals in 2022. This was the money spent by multilaterals in 2022. And then, of course, all of the these summary graphs are filtered by that. Another one you might want to look at would be humanitarian. So let's say you wanted to look at all humanitarian budgets and spending for 2022. So you can filter by humanitarian, and then you can see World Food Program is then the top provider here, which makes sense. So there's a lot of ways in which you can filter these summary dashboards to customize them. All right, so if we go back to the homepage, I just want to show you how to navigate and see the other dashboards. So here, this is for by recipient country or region. So you can also access these in the drop down here. So, but there's, a list on the page here as well. So, and then also just to show you one more thing, if we go back to the summary dashboard and you look at the map, you can click on a country. So like, let's say we wanted to look at Sudan, and then you can go directly to the country that way. So there's multiple ways to arrive at the country dashboard. So, and you can also see here that the filters that have been applied. So like, if you're choosing things here and then you forget what how you filtered your visualization, it's helpfully provided here so you can see what filters have been applied. So this shows you all of the budgets and spending in Sudan in 2022. If you wanted to look like at a particular organization, you can do that. So like, let's say we wanted to look at the African Development Bank. So then we're looking down here and you can see you only have the African Development Bank. And there's different graphs in this dashboard. So you have by reporting organization, by sector category, by finance type. You can see most of the money provided was to be provided as loans. You have by aid type, whether it's humanitarian or development, by reporting organization type. Obviously, African Development Bank is a multilateral. And then at the bottom, you have by activity. So this gives you the list of activities. So these are obviously all African Development Bank activities that are being implemented in Sudan. It gives you the budgets and spending. And if you wanted to explore one of these activities in more detail, you click on the link and it takes you to the D portal page. So this is the country or region dashboard. If we wanted to look at one reporting organization, let's say we wanted to look at the Gates Foundation, for example. We can come here and see these are all of the resources that were budgeted or spent by the Gates Foundation in the same analysis. And like, for example, like, let's say we wanted to also look, let's say we wanted just to look at spending and we wanted to look at 2023 as well. Then we've got, so you can see here, this is the 2022 and this is 2023 spending. There's a number of ways in which you can customize. And so like for sector category, let's quickly look at health. So again, these are all the resources that were budgeted to be spent in health in 2022. Again, you can look at this in a graph, in a table. I think oftentimes the table is quite helpful to get a sense of where the resources are allocated. If you go back to the map, so this is all for the health sector. Now let's say like we wanted to look at, for example, all US government budgets and spending for the health sector. Then we could select groups here. Then we select United States, we apply, and you can see all of these publishers are for the US government. Close, and then you can see all of these have been applied. And since they don't provide the budgets, there's not going to be much data there, but you can see this is like spending. So if we filter this just to look at spending, then you have all US government spending in health by country, by aid type, whether it's humanitarian or development. Obviously, they're bilateral. And then we have the specific activities in which they spent money. So those are the three different types of dashboards. And now I want to show you the custom data download. So if we go back to the home, so it's available both here at the top, but I'm just trying to show you how to navigate to it from the home page as well. So the custom data download is here. So basically what this allows you to do is to preview the data and then also then to download it into Excel. So the first thing that you probably want to do when you come to the custom data download is decide on which columns you want to include. So if we click on the drop down, you can see all of the different options here. And it has the same functionality as the dashboards, right? So it hopefully it's consistent across the different features. So hopefully that makes it more easy to navigate for users. So you can choose, for example, like let's say you want to look at reporting organization. And let's say like we don't want to look at the activity title and we just want to look at the budgets and spending by reporting organization, and recipient country. You can also drag and drop the columns to reorder them in the order you want to see them. So, so here we have reporting organization, recipient country or region, and then budgets and spending. Let's say like we wanted to look at just a particular country. Let's see, maybe we should pick, let's see, Burundi maybe. And so then this would be all of the activities in which there are budgets or spending by reporting organization. And so you can see here, all of this is Burundi. Let's say like, for example, we wanted to look at the amount spent so far in 2023. We can filter this. So then you have this, the spending in 2022 and 2023. And there's just a lot of other different ways that you can filter this. But like, for example, like once you arrive at the preview and like sort of the data you want to analyze, you can download the data. So, I mean, that's pretty quick. And then you have the information that you had in your preview. And it will be all the information, not just 10 results. Of course, you can increase the number of results here to review more of them. So that gives you 100. But there's a lot of different ways in which you can customize here. If we just scroll through what's on the left, obviously this is the recipient country or region. We have the reporting organization again, sector category. We have the currency, the resource flows, calendar year and quarter, and then the more filters. So the same filters that are in the dashboards are available here. So just to give you a couple more examples, like let's say we wanted to look at a particular organization. So let's say I want to know how much money Global Affairs Canada spent from 2019 to 2023. So like, let's remove this, and then we can add the additional years. So here we have all of the years that we're interested in. And then of course, like, okay, let's say we want to have the identifier, then we want the activity title. So we can add both of those. So you have then, this is all Canada's activities and the amount that was spent over these 5 years. And then we could also add, maybe we want the description as well. So some of these are quite long, but you can see here, so this is like all of the activities in which they were spending in these 5 years by Canada with the title, description, and of course you can add other pieces of information as well. So hopefully this gives you a sense of what you can kind of do with these different features. I'm very happy to, we shared in our news story, and perhaps one of my colleagues can share the link in the chat, some example queries. So I've kind of covered a few of these today, but you are welcome to explore those further. But I think now we've reached the point of the webinar where we would like to open the floor and answer any questions that you have about the tool itself, or any kind of questions that you maybe would want to try and answer using these new features. And we're very happy to look at that and kind of try and walk you through how you might answer those questions. So thank you very much for staying with us, but the floor is now open for any questions. And if there are no questions, that's okay. But don't hesitate to chime in with any questions that you have. So this could be questions about CDFD, questions that you want to explore with the data, or any feedback on what would make this tool more useful. And just to say that, like, we definitely recognize that there's still a demand for location data. So this is something we're still working on, but it's not the simplest set of data to make sort of easily accessible. So it's still a work in progress. I know that it is a small group, so I thank you very much for those of you who joined us today. And we will publish this webinar online. Of course, there are hopefully others who are not able to join will be able to take a look at the webinar after the fact. But I guess thank you everyone for joining, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day or evening.
We have a question.
Oh,
Sarah,
sorry.
We have a question in the chat box.
Okay, great. Sorry, I didn't see that. Is it possible to select more than one country in the custom data download? Yes, definitely. Let me just go back to that. Oops. Okay, so let's just refresh the custom data download. So definitely it's possible to select more than one country. So right now this is for all countries. Let me add the recipient organization, the recipient country, sorry. So definitely you can add, so here you have, like, this is a regional project, but let me remove some of this other data, and then you can kind of see. So here, like, you have all of, this is a summary by their recipient countries, but definitely that was one of the main objectives here, was to be able to pull for multiple countries. So, I mean, you could also, like, if we remove the filter for Canada and we say, like, okay, like, we want to do analysis on Ethiopia and Kenya and Rwanda, then you would have, I mean, of course, you can filter this in a number of different ways, but you would have the data for all of those countries. So if, like, you were doing health sector analysis, you could say, okay, this is the health sector. And then, of course, we could add the activity title. And then you could also add things like the more disaggregated sector information. So we know these are all in the health sector, but, like, what area are these targeting? So this is, like, infectious disease control, this is medical services. So definitely, hopefully this enables more easily for you to analyze across countries. And then of course, you could also add the descriptions, which is of course, a lot of people search within the descriptions to find even more detailed information. Like if you're looking for something a lot more detailed on what an activity is targeting, for example. But hopefully that answers the question. Thank you for the question, Alma. And I will just, since there's a couple people still here, I will just show you as well, like on the data dashboards, you can also go directly from these to the custom data download. So if you are like, you filtered the visualization in a certain way, like let's say we're looking at Afghanistan, and you're analyzing by sector category, you can click customize, and then that's going to take you to that same data, but in the custom data download. So maybe you're like, okay, like I want so this automatically filters by Afghanistan. And then it shows you the sector category and budgets and spending. But then you could be like, okay, but then I actually want all of the activities in this, and then you could add those as well. All right. Okay, great. I'm glad I answered the question. All right, I don't want to end prematurely again. So is there anybody else who has a question? Very, very happy to answer it, no matter what it is. All right, well, I think that will conclude the webinar. Thank you again for joining. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or explore this a little bit and like would like to have a support meeting. We're very happy to do that. So thank you very much for joining.